Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalaka Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Vastu Nirdesh. What is the subject matter of this Srimad Bhagavatam? The subject matter of this Bhagavatam is Param Satya, the Supreme Absolute Truth, who is Vasudeva, which means the all-pervading personality of Godhead, the Absolute Truth, who has also become the son of Vasudeva. Krishna is described in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So, who is that Param Satya? What is his nature? The source of everything, Janmadhyasya Yataha, the source of, here is mentioned, Utpatti, Sthiti, life, creation, maintenance and destruction. So he is the source of that. He is directly and indirectly conscious of everything. He puts even the demigods into illusion. This is, in this prayer by the demigods, these points, many of these points, which have been described in the very first verse of Bhagavatam, are also being described from their practical experience. They give the example, Vispulingadibhya ivihiranyaretasaha, that the jiva is like the spark of the original fire. This is the Vaishnava philosophy, or when you say Vaishnava philosophy, it means actual philosophy, that is described in a very important verse of Vishnu Purana, which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu described in his discussion with Prakashananda Saraswati, the great Mayavadi, to describe what is the nature of the Absolute Truth. Ekadesha sthitasya jyotsna vistarini ka. He's giving the example of the fire which spreads its heat and light everywhere. Ekadesha Parasya Brahmana Shaktis. In the same way, the energy of the Supreme Brahman, Tathedam Akilam Jagat. In the same way, the energy of the Supreme Brahman is spread throughout the cosmos. So this speaks of the fire and the sparks. The fire, the original fire, is spreading heat and light throughout the universe. Still, the heat and light they are the symptoms of the fire. They're inseparable from the fire. Still, the original fire has its position. And the other example given of the sparks, the spark of a fire is fire, same nature, but is not the full fire. The full fire has a different quantity of energy. So in the same way, the jiva is the nature of the fire, but not the full fire. Now, this is what we were saying, Vaishnava philosophy, sometimes this is considered, this is Vaishnava philosophy. I saw it in Bangalore, they had that book published by the Ramakrishna Mission. The different philosophies. Vaishnava, that means they gave Ramanuja's philosophy, Madhava's philosophy, Vallabhacharya's philosophy. I didn't look inside the book, actually, I just saw the comment. But must have Shankaracharya's philosophy, the main philosophies. So they say, well, if you want, you can explain Shankaracharya's philosophy. If you want, you can explain Madhava's philosophy. If you want, you can explain Ramanuja's philosophy. Different ideas, different perceptions of the same absolute truth. So in one sense that may be true, that even the impersonal understanding, that is one perception of the absolute truth. But what is the complete perception and the correct perception that we have to see? Now there are some philosophers who say that, well, any way you take it, one perception is as good as another. This is incorrect, and we have to apply, yesterday we were talking about Nyaya and Tarka. We have to apply logic, and you put your logic against mine, and we'll see what is the actual position. That any perception is as good as any other. Then we have the story of the blind men with the elephant. The perception of none of them was complete, and their perception of any of them is not at all sufficient to understand the elephant. Another example I often give is that simple perception without education, without proper education, is useless. Just like a mic, usually many Vikasa have a microphone. So we say, let's take this microphone, we give this to resident of the jungle and give it to him. So he may take it, well, this may be used for making nuts. Or if I'm cooking some stew, I could use it for stirring. It's also true. Or I could stick it in his belt and use it as an extra weapon to hit someone on the head with. So all these things, the microphone could be used for that, there's no doubt. But the proper purpose of the microphone, its specific usage, its function is dharma. What is the microphone dharma? What is it supposed to do? What is its function within the cosmos? Is to amplify sound. And one who knows how to use that properly, one who knows how to relate with it properly, then he can use it in that function and get the benefit from it. So similarly, real philosophy means not simply my perception. Real philosophy means sambandha abhideya prayojan. What is the necessity? What is the use that we can get from the microphone? So someone may say the use of it is, it's very good for breaking peanuts. That is true. It's also true. But it's not the actual use of the prayers. So, what is my relationship with that microphone? How I can use it, how it can benefit me, in practical, how to use it. So between any two objects, between any two entities, between different entities, there may not exist any relationship. Just like between an elephant and a microphone. An elephant has no need for a microphone, because one thing is, his voice is so loud anyway, he doesn't need it. And another thing is, within elephant society, his whole eating, sleeping, mating and defending, all that he can think of, he cannot go beyond that, is encompassed without any need for a microphone. And actually a human being doesn't need it either. But he may, as he is a sophisticated animal, he may add it to his paraphernalia, or eating, sleeping, mating and defending. He finds some use for it to make, in his complicated manner of eating, sleeping, mating and defending, he may use a microphone. And the devotee of Krishna may also use a microphone for expanding the glories of Krishna, speaking the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. So between any different entities, there is sambandha abhideya prayojan that is established. So when we're talking about the absolute truth also, we may perceive in a certain way, and we can even develop a whole philosophy. With the microphone, the Adivasi in the jungle who's using it to crack his nuts, he may find a very expert way to crack the nuts. If you hold it from this side, it's better, and you have to hold it with this wrist action. You go like this, and he breaks the nuts, boom, very expertly. Just cracks it open and the nuts fall out without being damaged. So he may develop some philosophy also based on a wrong perception. He may develop it, but it's incorrect. Incorrect, you may say, no, it's not incorrect because I break my nuts very nicely. But because it's misapplied, because he's understood wrongly in the first place, therefore it's all wrong. It's all misapplied, and the real benefit of the microphone cannot be had. So in the same way, in approaching the absolute truth, we may even develop very elaborate philosophies, more elaborate than the misuse of a microphone, because when we're just discussing the absolute truth, there are so many subjects to be taken into account, just like the demigods have given so many important, the different terms they have given. Any of these terms could be analyzed for days. Akhila Jagat Utpatti Sthita Laya. Nirmitta. He is the cause of the whole creation, maintenance, destruction. So practically the whole Srimad Bhagavatam starts on this point and describes this point. How the Supreme Lord, He is the creation, the source of creation, maintenance and destruction, but He's not simply like a potter, but He's both. Both kinds of causes are in Him. both the direct cause and the remote cause. He's also the resting place of the creation. And even above that, that's not all just like they praise. God is the creator. They say, oh, he's so great, he's created everything. But God's main function is not simply to create the universe. That's, if you say, oh, the government is such a wonderful government because they make such nice prisons. They maintain them very nicely. But the president of the country, his main business is not creating prisons and making ordinances for governing the prison. His real function is maintaining the whole state, seeing to the welfare of the state. And even beyond that, he has his own private family life, that's the most important thing of all to him. So in the same way, the Supreme Lord, his main function is not creator of the universe. That's a very minor function for him. He has his own world that he oversees. But even more than that, is within his own work, just like the president, within the state, he travels through the state and oversees everything. But his own home life, how he talks with his wife. So like that, there's the spiritual world, that is the real world of the Supreme Lord. And within that, there is Golok Vrindavan. But the Supreme Lord, he gives up all formality and simply runs and dances with his devotees. So many points to be understood. If we understand it wrongly in the first place, then even we may develop a very complex philosophical system. But it's not correct. Therefore, this idea that you can take any philosophy, it's all the same, explain it this way, explain it that way, explain it another way, this way, that way, another way. But if the basic point is wrong, then you're going to find there are so many things which are wrong. Just like in Shankaracharya's philosophy, the whole basis is based on house on sun. The basic proposition that everything is of undifferentiated oneness. That in itself, even to say that means someone has to say and someone has to hear, someone has to think. There is the seer and the seen, and the vision. And so they say all are one. The seer, the seen, and the act of seeing. It's all the same. Drishya, drishta, darshan, all the same. But how can it be? It cannot be. That one is seeing something else. Or if you say that everything is all one, then why are you preaching anything? Because it's already all one. Well, who are you trying to convince? Who are you trying to convince? If I am the Beatles song, I am me and you are we are all together. If that's actually the fact, then they'll say, then withdraw from the world, there's no need to endeavor for anything. Then why preach anything to anybody either? Why preach? What's the object of preaching? Who are you? Who or what are you trying to convince? Because we're already vyavaharic. But it's not vyavaharic. It's not practical. It's very impractical. I had this experience once on the street in Patna. I was speaking to I was walking on the street, some young students came to spoke to me. So I was speaking to them. The one man who was walking past, he stopped and they listened for a few minutes. Then he protested, because I was speaking something which he didn't like, which was, we are all servants of God. This was a side street. There are not many people on the street. Residential, like pigs running here and there. Some big chickens. Not so many chickens, not pigs. So anyway, you say, no, you should not say we're all servants of God. We are all God. Everything is God. So then there's a pig running here. So I asked him, well, do you say that the pig is also God? Yes. Would you be prepared to offer puja to this pig? Yes, certainly, why not? What about the stool of the pig? Would you pick that up, take that home, put on your altar and worship with ghee lamps and this? Yes, why not? Everything is God. The stool of the pig is God. So this we see, not realistic. That if you take the logical, you extend by logic what are the propositions, then they'll take even the stool of the pig should be worshipped. So you become a laughing stock. Then you take it even further. And if all is one, then why are you going to eat rice and chapatis? Why don't you eat the stool of a pig? It's all the same. It's all Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
It's easier to get also.
So it doesn't cost any money. And full of vitamins, so many things. So the pigs are very healthy, very fat. Why not eat that? Or they'll say, no, we have to live vyavaharik. Practical. We have to be practical. Yes. We are practical. We say that we are not supreme. This idea, we are all supreme. It's a very nonsense idea. Very meaning of supreme is above all others. There's also, they say, they have some idea. They say, well, actually, in the beginning there was only this philosophy, and then because people are less intelligent, they introduced Bhakti in this way. Because people are less intelligent, they introduced that, and then, but for more intelligent people, not for more intelligent people, for the least intelligent people who are stuck in this tiny little universe being kicked by Maya, tiny little planet, some tiny little street or running around in the jungle. This tiny little, if you look on the map even, you can't find it. In one street, in one town, in one country, in one planet, and it's a little ball in the universe. This huge universe, and there are millions of universes. And someone is going around thinking, I am supreme. So insignificant. Because we are more intelligent, we can understand. And what is our intelligence? How much intelligence? We're so proud of their intelligence. And how much intelligence do you have? Oh, our intelligence is cosmic intelligence. This is great illusion to think that I am supreme. Then if you say all are supreme, that in itself is self-defeating, because how can we all be supreme? Supreme means asamurdava. Greater than or equal to, there is nothing. That is meaning of supreme. There cannot be more than one supreme. Supreme means above all others. Top. Number one. So therefore the demigods, they're giving what is the actual position of God. That is described clearly. Those who are non-envious, they will take the Srimad Bhagavatam. That yes, here is actual information. Who is supreme? What does he do? How can you understand God by our logic? We say, God, what is he doing? What does he look like? And we should know, if we're going to worship God and love God, we should know what is he doing? What does he like to do? He's a person. Then, what is he doing? We say he's blue. He runs in the forest with his cowherd boyfriends, plays on the flute, dances with the gopis. You say, well, it doesn't sound like God to me. Well, that doesn't matter, because it sounds like God to God, and he's God. And he can do whatever he likes. He's not that God should fit my conception. Our God is a very moral God. He doesn't dance with gopis. We hear some people say. Our God, he's very moral. He's very right. So you cannot say, I think God should be like this. I think God is very cruel. They'll say, he's very cruel. Your idea, this Krishna God, he kills people, so very cruel. So even if you think he's cruel, of course you don't know. Because you can't understand, because you read your mother. Or these Christians, so-called Christian sayings. So, even if you say cruel, that you can't fight that. Even if your perception of it is cruel, due to your wrong perception, you can't fight that, because he is supreme. You can't protest, but I think you're very cruel. And you also get your head cut off. And that's going on anyway. Anyway, God is killing everybody. Even if you say, Krishna is very cruel, he killed so many people. Everyone is being killed by God. Either in the form of old age, or typhoid, or malaria. Everyone is dying this way, that way, or the other. So that we should see how God, when Krishna kills, what is his killing? It is his kindness. Of course, it's a great science to understand. Anyway, there's so many important points here. So many. Divya Maya Vinodasya. Krishna takes pleasure in his spiritual energy. Sakala Jiva Nikayanam Anta Hridiyeshu Bahirapi. All these terms, that's a big subject. Big subject of philosophy. What is this one? Within all the hearts of the living entities, Bahirapi also, he's outside also. He's inside and outside. Big subject. Then, Bahirapi Cha Brahma, he's also impersonal Brahman. Pratyagatma, he is also the soul of every soul, or the super soul. And Swarupena, he's also situated in his own position. So, and also Pradhan Rupena, he's also the form of the cosmos. He's the ingredients of the cosmos are also him. He is everything directly, but still he has his own individual personality. So many important points are here, which would take many days to discuss. Actually, even many lifetimes. We can never finish discussing all these things. So that is the pleasure of the devotees, to discuss about Krishna. That Krishna says in Gita. Chitam adgata prana bodhiyanta purasparam katyantas chanam nityam krishyanti chariyanti cham. The pleasure of the devotees is discussing about Krishna. How he is the cause of all causes, how he is, so many different points are being given here. How Krishna is the supreme friend of every living being, how Krishna is enjoying his own bliss by coming again as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and spreading that chanting. He takes great pleasure in personally chanting his own names and takes great pleasure in seeing others taking pleasure in chanting his names. So much discussion is there. Just one major point is being discussed in a small way this morning. There's no end to this discussion. Therefore, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he requested his devotees. One time all devotees were expressing their appreciation for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, if you really appreciate me, if you really love me, then you please just do one little thing for me. I request you. He said that, Jadi ama prati sneha thaka shadatha, tobe Krishna betirikta na gaibaya. If you actually like me, and if you have affection for me, then you please do this one thing. You simply discuss Krishna, nothing else. Ki shayane, ki bhojane, ki bajagarane, ahar nisha, Krishna chinta bhavahavane. In any position, eating, sleeping, awake, asleep, day, night, always think of Krishna and chant his holy names. This is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's advice, which he showed personally how to do and how to follow in his footsteps. Hare Krishna. Any more? Comment? Elucidation? Elaboration?
You were just mentioning that this subject matters are very high. In itself are very high subject matters. So how do we actually of course we conclude your speech by saying Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said that all it is said about Krishna. So I'm just inquiring from you, like when you said this is a very high subject matter, so discussing about Krishna in the public, like you said, this man who said everything is God. Now we have that type of people, and we also have innocent people who also think that they think Krishna is also God and everything, but their understanding may not be like the other man. But they also think everything is God. So, but if these are high subject matters, how do we explain to these people, and what is the best process to make them all understand this science and practice it?
Best process is everyone should be engaged in Harinam Kirtan. Yes. And here also, Prabhupada used to explain in a very, very simple, straightforward manner. It's a very high subject, but it's a high subject, but it's not beyond the scope of people to understand, because it is their natural birthright. And those who are prepared to hear submissively from devotees who explain correctly, they can begin to understand that Krishna blesses those who hear submissively with the ability to begin to understand. So if they're prepared, then yesterday the English was some Jnane prayasam udapasya namanta eva. Those who are a little bit humble, and they're Jnane prayasam, if they're at least prepared to listen, that means that a little bit that's jnana prayas, they're not thinking I already know everything. So at the beginning, they're prepared to listen to, that is ado shraddha, maybe a little bit of faith, maybe there's something here I could learn. A little bit of that attitude. We begin to hear, and if it's explained, Prabhupada would explain point by point, simply, straightforwardly, very high subject matter. But Prabhupada, you see, that was one of the many great gifts of Prabhupada, one of the greatest of his great gifts, that he was able to explain this complex Vedanta philosophy, and take the essence and present that very simply. As they said, everything is all one. And Prabhupada would say, then why are you wearing a shirt? Why don't you wear a ball of cotton? It's all the same. So by this simple examples.
It's sort of like the Kumbh Mela. My buddy was a man who was claiming that everything is one. So Srila Prabhupada said, therefore that wool chadda, it was very cold, had a heavy wool chadda. He said, therefore one thread from that chadda is the same as the whole chadda. He said, oh yes. Therefore give me one thread. The man gave him one thread, and Prabhupada handed that to him, and he said, now you give me the chadda. If it is all one, then it is the same thing. You have one thread or you have one chadda. Same thing. Said, oh yes, of course, yes. The man walked away without his chadda.
Exposing his foolishness.
Middle of the night, he came very humbly to Srila Prabhupada and said, can you please give me my chadda? I'm very cold.
Not vyavahara. Not practical. That's something we can do. People say it's all one. So, then the money in your pocket, if it's in my pocket, it's all the same. So then kindly give it. Show your philosophy. Not vyavaharik. Avyavaharik. Then it's my leela to have it in my pocket and take the money to spend it on cigarettes.
I was asking this because in the beginning when I was preaching in Bangalore, I was telling to Srila Prabhupada about my experience of preaching to the college students. So I was inquiring, because that was the beginning in those days, even the BI had not started.
Times have changed.
Yeah, so I was asking Srila Prabhupada that whether should I just focus on the preaching to the students. I said that there seems to be a big scope, especially because this I was telling about my experience in Tamil Nadu, Madras. And there's a college called Loyola College, Pachayappa College. I had done some program there. And Prabhupada told me, actually, it's nice to do this preaching. But he said, because Prabhupada also had some experience of preaching in Madras, he had come one or two programs already. So he was saying, since that place is already inflicted by so many different type of philosophy, and particularly that time it was being, governed by the atheistic, supposedly atheistic. So Prabhupada told me the best thing is, when we talk of philosophy, is that unless they are pious, unless until they are pious, they will become more envious. So the best is, Prabhupada said, you devise the program somehow or other, we do a lot of Harinam Sankirtan. So by this Harinam Sankirtan, they will get some piety. And then talk philosophy. So that's the best way. I don't know whether...
Well, I beg to submit that times have changed, and by the influence of this movement and so many books going out, I was also going to college students in India starting from, 18 years ago. And it's a lot different. At that time, going into college, it was tough. They would pull our shikas, call us names, laugh at us. Now when we go into colleges, they're very respectful, and they're ready to listen to us. Times have changed. And another thing I found, that those days, you try to speak philosophy, you just get an avalanche of protests.
What is the cause of the change?
And I think it's Prabhupada's movement and Prabhupada's books have gone out. And people have seen that they respect. At that time, they were not respecting our devotees. Now they respect. They see these people have stayed. The movement is built up. It's all over the world. It's not just a fly-by-night thing. People all over the world are taking this very seriously. People know our principles are very serious and are dedicated. This movement's got something, so it's very much respected. Another thing that's happened is that generation was so atheistic. For so many years, the culture and in every home there was some spiritual teaching. But this generation, mostly they didn't teach their kids. So the kids that are coming up now, they have some piety, but they don't know anything. Many of them say that we don't know anything. And actually it's a fact, they don't know anything. Really, they don't know anything about any spiritual philosophy. They want to learn, and there's no one to... They may go to this person, that person, and then they get Prabhupada's books, or they read our devotees, and wow, and they appreciate there's some substance. So really, times have changed for the better in India, there's no doubt. Those early years were very tough for preaching. And now it's so overwhelmingly good, there's so much scope.
The point that I was trying to make in the question was, so this subject matter that we've been discussing, now, we